What if the money you've been saving your entire life for retirement is suddenly being positioned as your ticket into home ownership? What if the biggest barrier standing between you and the American dream isn't your income, isn't your credit score, but the rules around your own money? President Donald Trump is preparing to unveil a plan that could fundamentally change how Americans buy homes. A plan that would allow people to use funds from their 401k retirement accounts for down payments. Supporters say this could unlock homeownership for millions. Critics warn it could put future retirement security at serious risk. And before we go any further, I want to hear from you. If you agree with this decision, write yes in the comments. If you disagree, write no. No judgment, just honesty. Because by the end of this video, once you understand how this plan works, why it's being proposed now, who benefits, who could lose, and what this means for the future of housing in America, you might see it very differently. Let's break this down calmly, clearly, and without hype. For decades, home ownership was seen as a milestone most working families could reasonably reach. You saved, you budgeted, you bought a home in your 20s or early 30s, and over time that home became the foundation of your financial life. It wasn't easy, but it was achievable. Today, that model has quietly collapsed for millions of Americans. The reality now is stark. Rent keeps rising. Home prices feel untouchable. Mortgage rates are higher than many buyers have ever seen in their adult lives, and saving for a down payment while paying rent, groceries, healthcare, and transportation feels impossible. For younger Americans especially, the American dream hasn't disappeared. It's been delayed indefinitely. This is the environment in which this proposal is emerging. The administration isn't just responding to a housing problem. It's responding to a generational crisis of affordability. And the question policymakers are now asking is whether traditional financial rules still make sense in a world that no longer looks anything like the past. To understand why such a dramatic policy is even being discussed, we have to understand what actually went wrong. Since the pandemic, median home prices have risen by more than 50% nationwide. At the same time, rents increased by over 35%. That means people are paying more just to stay housed, leaving less room to save. Then came interest rates. As inflation surged, the Federal Reserve raised rates aggressively. Mortgage rates followed, and the impact was immediate. Monthly mortgage payments for a typical family nearly doubled compared to just a few years earlier. Even buyers who could once afford a home suddenly found themselves priced out. Down payments became the final barrier. What once required $15,000 now often requires $30,000 or more. For families already stretched thin, that number feels unreachable. This is why the average age of first-time homebuyers has climbed to 40, the highest ever recorded. Not because people don't want to own homes, but because the system no longer allows them to. The core idea behind this proposal is simple but controversial. Americans already have money. It's just locked away in retirement accounts. The plan would allow individuals to withdraw funds from their 401k specifically for a home down payment, removing the biggest upfront obstacle to buying a house. Supporters argue this isn't reckless spending, it's reallocating assets. Instead of paying rent indefinitely, buyers would be investing in property, building equity, and stabilizing housing costs earlier in life. The administration sees this as unlocking trapped wealth rather than creating new debt. The proposal also introduces a new concept, tying home equity growth to retirement savings. Homeowners could place up to 10% of their home's equity into a retirement-style structure. As the value of the home increases, the retirement account grows too. In theory, this allows Americans to grow housing wealth and retirement wealth at the same time, instead of choosing one over the other. For first-time buyers and young families, this plan could feel like a lifeline. Instead of waiting decades to save a down payment while rents continue rising, families could enter the housing market earlier. That means predictable payments, long-term stability, and the chance to build wealth instead of watching money disappear into rent. Supporters also argue that financial rules haven't kept up with reality. Retirement systems were designed for a world where housing was affordable and careers were stable. Today's economy looks very different. This plan is framed as flexibility and giving people control over when and how they use their savings to build a future that actually works. From this perspective, the proposal isn't about undermining retirement. It's about acknowledging that homeownership itself has historically been one of the strongest retirement assets Americans have ever had. Critics raise serious concern, and they shouldn't be ignored. Retirement accounts exist for a reason. Withdrawing funds early reduces long-term growth, especially when compound interest is lost. If housing markets fall, homeowners could be left with lower retirement balances and less equity than expected. There's also the issue of inequality. Higher income Americans are more likely to have substantial 401k balances, meaning they benefit the most. Lower income workers who already struggle to save for retirement may gain little while assuming greater risk. Some economists worry this could deepen financial divides rather than close them. At its core, the criticism is about trade-offs. Is it wise to sacrifice future security to solve a present crisis? Or is the present crisis so severe that new risks must be taken? That's the real debate, not politics, but priorities. This proposal is part of a broader housing strategy. The administration has directed the purchase of $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities in an effort to lower mortgage rates. Lower rates mean lower monthly payments, which could immediately improve affordability. There's also a push to limit large institutional investors from purchasing additional single-family homes. Corporations owning thousands of properties have transformed housing markets, often outbidding families and driving prices higher. Restricting their expansion could return inventory to everyday buyers. Together, these moves signal a shift toward prioritizing individual homeownership over corporate accumulation. A notable change in how housing policy is being framed. This plan represents more than a policy tweak. It reflects a recognition that traditional systems are failing many Americans. Housing, retirement, and affordability are no longer separate issues. They're deeply connected. Whether this proposal becomes a breakthrough or a cautionary tale depends on execution, safeguards, and long-term outcomes. It could help millions finally own homes, or it could expose retirement savings to new vulnerabilities. And that's why this conversation matters. So once again, tell me in the comments, yes if you support this move, no if you don't. Because decisions like this don't just shape markets, they shape lives. Thanks for watching Social Security Posts, and I'll see you in the next video.